All right, welcome back. Second video from the Combine. This is going to be our defensive backs. We already did the defensive linemen. So a couple defensive backs that I might have overlooked. Jerry Jones, the first one, this isn't one that I necessarily overlooked. It's just I don't see the Bears needing a cornerback. I don't see us drafting a cornerback, especially with everything Ryan Poles has said about Jalen Johnson at the Combine, about the plan they've already put together. They've already presented him an offer. It's up to his team now. Everything they've put in place there to show that he's either going to sign that contract or they're going to tag him. Either way, we don't need a cornerback in this draft, especially with the limited draft capital we have. So I don't see this being something we're going to do. But I did want to highlight Jerry Jones had the highest RAS score of any cornerback in the Combine this year. 5'11", almost 6 foot, 190 pounds. His 40-yard dash was 4.38. Vertical and broad, all extremely high. Just to highlight a few things on him, his passer rating against him was 25.3, which is extremely low. That's Jalen Johnson style, top in the NFL. Of course, this is college, and college doesn't it's one of the hardest things to gauge is how they're going to translate from college to the NFL, but 25.3 passer rating against is extremely solid. So this is someone NFL scouts on their big boards may not be overlooking as much as PFF or all these other outlets, Draft Buzz, and everybody is seeing him as a fourth rounder. If you see at the bottom right now, they have him projected as a late third rounder, fourth rounder. Missed tackle percentage of 20%, which is solid. 3 interceptions, 1 forced fumble. So solid cornerback. Really did well at the Combine. 9.87 RAS score. RAS scores might not be as important to every team, but we know the Bears do like to see those better athletic players. And then on the safety side, just to make sure you guys understand, Tyler Nubin, who is my favorite, who I think is a lockdown first rounder. Someone's going to draft him in the first round, especially at the end of the first round where so many teams need safety or need strong, solid defensive backs. This is not Tyler Nubin, but Tyler Nubin didn't run the 40-yard. He did a lot of the different drills, the box drill, the shuttle, the three-cone. He did those at the Combine, but he did have a meniscus injury, and he didn't want – some players don't want to risk hamstrings or things that may re-aggravate something on the 40 because you're really stressing and pulling everything on your body when you're doing that 40. So he didn't run the 40. I don't hold that against Tyler Nubin at all. He had just a phenomenal, and I'll highlight it at the end of the video or at the end of my Combine analysis that I'm going to put at the early of next week. I don't hold that against Tyler Nubin at all. If the Bears can find a way to trade up into the end of the first round, if we can acquire a couple first-round picks, say we trade back to 2 and then trade back to number 8 and then trade 9 down to 15, and we have all this excess of future draft capital, and the Bears have, say, number 36 or number 40 from Washington, and we want to trade up into number 28 range, which I've done as one of my mocks, and we get Tyler Nubin at 28 by trading up and using some of that draft capital, I have no problem with that whatsoever because he is such an athletic freak, and he's had such a stellar year. But one thing I want to point out here is Ryan Watts, who's a 6th, 7th rounder, who's very similar to Tyler Nubin. That's why I'm highlighting him. And he had the highest RAS score. And someone I've completely overlooked, and the reason I overlooked him is because his coverage grades weren't good. His passer rating against him was in the 115s. I don't have the exact number, but you could figure it out by 29 receptions. I'm sorry, I have that backwards, but it's 20 receptions on 29 attempts against him this year. So his coverage grade wasn't great, but his missed tackle percentage was really solid, some of the best in college, 2.9%. 3 pass breakups, no interceptions. So there's just more I'd have to look into on him, but teams might have him higher than a 6th, 7th with the way he graded out, almost 6'3", 208 pounds, which isn't necessarily your typical free safety, but when he can move the way he does, 4.53 40. His vertical and his broad are extremely strong. Someone that I might have overlooked, someone worth looking into more, might go higher than that 6th, 7th rounder if the Bears acquire extra draft capital and get into the 4th, 5th round and snag him. I wouldn't be shocked with how he's graded out at the Combine because he did such a good job at the Combine. So here's our second video on the Combine and the people I might have overlooked, people worth keeping an eye on as we move into the draft, because it's interesting to see how these high RAS scores translate as they move into the draft, into April, and see where they end up getting picked. Because it's not just about how they do at the Combine. We talked about this before on a different video. It's more about the medicals, and it's more about their interview with the teams than it is about all these drills. But teams do like to see these high athletic players who have that athletic ability that can translate into the NFL. So, all right, until next time, bear down.